welcome to this, well, honestly, typical episode of the Fragments Silicon Reviews. I mean, we're broadcasting on Super Bowl Sunday, but, we're not adjusting anything for our schedule. So, 4 games, 2 reviews, 2 impressions vids this week. The first of which is Gravitar Recharged. The cult classic Gravitar has been recharged. Complete missions in each solar system, navigating a variety of challenging environments, each with various levels of gravity that will test your skills as a pilot before unlocking new solar systems to explore. Right. So, that perhaps undersells a few things, but I suppose a bit of a history lesson is needed here. Not too much because there's not that much to talk about in terms of Gravitar, compared to some of the other classic things we've visited on the show. But you may not have heard of Gravitar, and that's not a coincidence, because Gravitar originally came out in the arcades in 1982. And it's been described as a combination of asteroids and lunar lander, which are, 2 of the biggest hits that Atari ever produced for the arcades. In fact, Asteroids is the biggest hit they ever made. But this failed. This failed kind of hard. In fact, I think it failed so hard that it actually put Atari off of vector graphics. I remember reading that somewhere, but I can't verify that in the here and now, since that would actually take, a bit of deep research, and it doesn't really matter. And I've played the original Gravitar, not in the arcade, but I remember, I think it was on GameTap forever ago. But if you play Gravitar, you'll understand why this game fell into the abyss really quickly. And that is because it is hard. It is very hard. Like, this is mega expert difficulty or something like that. Because you're trying to do precision with the imprecise. Like, you can perhaps see it on screen here. But in Gravitar, especially the not every planet, but a good deal of them, they have very narrow passages, and you don't have brakes. All you have are 3 maneuvers. Now I forget if that.
Braking? Did you mean turning around and thrusting in the other opposite direction?
Yeah. That's the way you brake. So you're not going to be able to make, smooth turns that stop on a dime. Now, granted, even if this thing did have brakes, it'd be subjected to the more realistic brakes. That is to say, you slow down and then stop. Rather than, video game brakes where you just stop dead and don't have to deal with actual physics. Because this is based off of actual physics, inertia and all that jazz, it makes for a difficult time. And Gravitar Recharged is very faithful to that philosophy. And see, this gets into the objective versus subjective here, because I'm of two minds of it. On the one hand, yes, you've lovingly preserved the gameplay of Gravitar. On the other hand, you've lovingly preserved the gameplay of Gravitar. I'll be honest. Yeah, I've never been a big fan of this style of game. You know, even though, like, this is probably the originator of this, not the only game that has ever done, hey, let's move around using actual Newtonian principles and put you in narrow spots. So it's kind of a, if you like this kind of thing, you're probably going to at least nominally enjoy this game. On the other hand, like, if if you're looking for more not accurate but more precise movements, more video gamey physics, this isn't the game. It's never been that game. In fact, that's kind of where the reputation lies here. On the other hand, if you're a fan of Gravitar, you may not like this game either. That comes down to the art style. Because this is part of the Recharged series. And it occurs to me that this is the first time we've actually talked about one of the Recharged games. Not from a lack of trying, by the way.
Well, we kind of talked to them a little bit when we talked about the Atari 50 collection, because there were some of them in that.
No. The Recharged series is a different initiative. And Digital Eclipse didn't do this. This was This is a collaboration between Atom Vision Studios now. We have reviewed some of their games on this program, and Sneaky Box. Like I said, I poked all the various entities about speaking about the Recharge series or getting a code, to no avail. It's just, thank you, switching code sites. Still waiting on that. Not Atari Classics, Infogrames Classics, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, this is a series of revamped for the modern age Atari Classics, while still keeping to the classic gameplay as well. Which has always been a bone of contention when it comes to remaking old games for the new eras. But that's a whole history that we don't have to explore. Ironically, they went for something a bit, something different here. Even though you still got the neon, it's just the new art kind of obscures everything. Like, the thing about Gravitar is it had vector graphics, but they were also in color. And they were bright, bold colors against space. Black space. And instead of that, we've got... I'm assuming this is a more accurate representation of how the solar system would look. The sunlight beaming out and, light. It's a very drastic difference from the old Gravitar is what I'm getting at. In fact, it's kind of the polar opposite of what the old Gravitar looked like. And I'd imagine that is going to bother more than a few fans of the classic series. Now, fortunately, the old game not only still exists, but is accessible in the Atari 50 collection, among other various Atari packages that have been released over the years. So that's still preserved.
I guess something to note with this, if you have an ultra-wide monitor and try and play it in a 16:9 aspect ratio, your ship will be off the screen when you enter a planet. So that's not good.
No, it's not. Now, I've also heard an overall complaint in the Recharge series overall is the lack of longevity, replay value in terms of these games. And I'm like, the replay value is in like the score and stuff. Like, the old games were never about quests and completing levels and goals. Like, they were a bit too primitive for that. And these are arcade games. It was about score. It is worth noting that per the Recharge series, there is a whole bunch of new challenges, which I did not even attempt to try. Because, spoiler alert, I'm not very good at Gravitar. Because this is a game that you really have to commit to get good at. Because of how unconventional it can be. Like, and I think that's about what I wanted to cover with this game, in the overall sense of the word. It's just, I don't really know how to rate this. I'll be honest, because it's a quality product that I just utterly despise. And I can't really recommend either because of the learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is an entry-level stuff. It's like, if you want something that's a lot more accessible, arguably playable, I would recommend some of the other Recharged games, like Missile Command or Centipede, Yar's Revenge. Yar's has its own obscure stuff. It just, Gravitar is hard to play, and here's the thing. It's not even the physics. It's a combination of that and bouncing around all the places. Because I actually do kind of like Lunar Lander.
Well, and I guess something to note with Gravitar, it does take advantage of analog triggers, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it has that going for it.
Right.
I kind of wish they just had an original version just here with updated graphics, personally.
Right. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of this art style. It's not the ugliest of the Recharged games. That currently, in my estimation, is Berserk Recharged.
It's not that it's ugly. It's just too, I want to say simplified, but the older game was simpler, if you know what I mean.
Right. But, like, it had that vector style.
Yeah, it has style to it. This just looks like an indie game.
I mean, it is an indie game.
Well, like a nondescript indie game. Like, this was somebody's class project they did based off Gravitar. not a new
Right.
upgraded version of Gravitar.
Or it's it's Gravity Avatar.
Yeah.
Let's say.
It's something that probably would have been released on the Xbox Live Indie channel in the 360 era for like 80 points.
I can see that. But yeah, like I said, this one's just ultimately I have to give the nod to not recommending Gravitar Recharged. Just because of that difficulty curve.
Mm-hmm. Also, if you have an ultra-wide monitor, just don't even bother.
I'm not sure if that extends to the other Recharged games.
Yeah.
Maybe we find out in due time. Anyway, so in terms of pricing, this is one of the more expensive. I want to say that $10, $9.99 is the regular price. But I have seen like Missile Command Recharge going for that was like $5.
Yeah, if this was like under $5, I'd say look at it. But
yeah,
if we're looking at $10 or more, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is on sale right now for $3.99.
$3.99 should be its permanent price.
Right. Honestly, this is another common complaint with the Recharge series overall. The overpricing of the titles. But it's not as bad as the Beyond series, which seems to be the new iteration of this idea. Like Lunar Lander Beyond here is $20.
Jesus.
Yeah, but and I suspect Pong Beyond may be that price as well. But we're not reviewing those games. We're reviewing this one.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, it's unfortunate, but because in a vacuum, this isn't a bad product. Like it's perfectly playable in its own quirky way. It's just you have to put up with those quirks out the gate. Or you just wasted a tenner. That's what it comes down to. So ultimately, give this one a miss. Right. So I think that'll about do it for Gravitar Recharged here. Be sure to tune in after the break, as Petty Fan will be giving his impressions on Positron.